So what do you think of that? It's alright. Hello and welcome to another What Do You Think of That? It's alright. Today we're doing The Walking Dead. We're only doing season 1 due to the fact that there is multiple seasons, spin-offs, etc. If you'd, like I said before, enjoy listening to my thoughts and commentary and opinions on certain bits and pieces, then we'll carry on and we'll do a few more. Second season, third season, spin-offs, etc, etc, but this is solely just based on season 1. So anyway, spoilers ahead for the whole season. So I remember briefly hearing about this back in the day, and if you're in the UK, for you, this aired on Channel 5 of all channels, not the BBC, not ITV, not Channel 4, Channel 5. To put it into perspective for maybe a different audience like our American neighbour. To put it into perspective for like our American audience, it's like one of your, let's say you've got HBO Max or Sky or something, I don't know, I'm trying to work out a version of your channels, but let's say you've got like a really off-brand one that doesn't really do anything, and it's just like, oh yeah, we've got another channel, but it was weird basically, to put it that way. Anyway, this started in 2010. It's crazy to think how long ago this was. Zombie hype was proper zombie hype back then. It wasn't, you know, saturated as the market is these days with everything has to have zombies in it. It was early stages when like games of Call of Duty had a zombie mode in it, and everyone was like, oh, it's quite cool, and everyone was just loving zombies at the time because it wasn't just, like I said, everywhere. As for cast, like I said at the time, wasn't very well known to me personally. I didn't know all these actors and actresses in their roles. You had the likes of Rick Grimes, played by the great Andrew Lincoln. As like I said, later seasons you'll see why. Then you had Shane Walsh or something, oh, I'm gonna get these names wrong, but he's played by John Berthel. Then you had Laurie Grimes, who I knew actually from Prison Break originally by the Sarah Wayne Callis or something like that. Like I said, don't quote me on all this. Then you had Stephen Yeun playing Glenn. That was great. And then you had Chandler Riggs as Carl. Carl! We won't get started on my opinions on Carl. He's definitely one of those characters. Anyway, obviously we ended up having Norman Reedus as well as, from what I understand, an unknown talent in playing Daryl Dixon. And like I said, if you're watching this in the future like we are now, not 2010, you see where he's gone. It's great. The show was started by the famous Frank Darabont. His great work such as The Shawshank Redemption, The Green Mile, things like that. So he's, you know, a lot of cast from those films have travelled across into this show as well. Personally, great. It only had 6 episodes. Later on they commissioned for 13 and then 16 and so forth, and I think the final season later on gets 24 episodes. It's just too much. 6 episodes was perfect. It didn't have loads, but it had enough to tell you the story that they needed to tell without having to drag it out and put filler episodes and all like that. It was perfect to a T. It was just perfection. Season 1 is the GOAT. Definitely. We start off with Rick walking along and seeing a little girl hold a teddy bear, and then shooting her dead in the head. Then we flash back to a little nice chat with him and Shane, and all of a sudden cars go whizzing past, they hear the old radio and all this, and off they go, and then Rick gets shot and ends up in his coma. Next before he wakes up and the world's gone to shit. Doesn't know what's going on. And you have the famous "Don't Dead Open Inside," as the words say. Yeah, and this is when you're introduced to zombies and everything, and you don't know what's really going on, and he wanders around, all a bit, you know, dazed because of his comatose state. Ends up getting knocked out by, I don't remember his name, but Morgan's son knocks him out. Wakes up, and then it's like, oh, you're not actually bit, you know, you're not infected. They might become friends and all this. And at the time, you know, he helps him out, gives him a radio, and they part ways. And Rick ends up on a horse and off he goes into Atlanta, which was not a great idea. A city full of zombies. He ends up getting cornered and ends up in the tank. So that was the episode 1. I couldn't say they could write a better episode for an intro to a show. A brand new show, great start, very strong, brilliant. I couldn't wait for the second episode. As he meets Glenn, helps him out, and he walks across and they get into a building, an apartment store where other survivors are all holed up because of Rick's earlier antics. He's caused the zombies to rile up a bit, so they're kind of trapped in the building. But then they come up with a plan to use guts. It was a brilliant plan and a well-written plot device that the dead can't smell the dead because, well, it's just rotting. They're expecting to smell humans live. It's also interesting in the beginning as they run off to get some vehicles for them to help escape. They are a bit more intelligent, these zombies. They can climb and do things, which definitely made it a bit more interesting. Like, oh shit, these zombies are a bit more of a threat. They seem to lose their mind as time goes on. This is also where we're introduced to Muriel. So any of the comic book readers who are all excited, Muriel was a brand new character, played by the great Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. A little reference there for you. But yeah, great. Obviously he causes a load of issues and all that, so they end up chaining him onto the ceiling. And then off they go and escape. And then we move on to the third episode where they get back. Muriel loses his sanity, goes a bit crazy and ends up chopping his hand off. And that's the last we see of Muriel for the time being. Don't want to know what's gone. Rick gets has a reunion with his family, and it's lovely, and he's all like, oh, and you can see Shane like, oh shit, kind of thing, because he wasn't expecting Rick to come back. As the plot develops, you know why. Naughty. Also later on, Ed, who is Carol's wife. Carol. She's a very interesting character. Very, as time goes on, you'll see. But she, for the purpose of this episode, she's a very tame woman who gets beaten by her husband. So Shane takes him out and beats the crap out of him. And that'll deal with him. Daryl, another character made for the show, not from comic books, shows up and is like, "You left my brother," and all this. So off they go to find his brother. Yeah, okay. Back into the city. As they go to find his brother, they can't find him. He's disappeared. It's just a hand. It's like, oh dear. And they're looking around. But they end up running into a little gang, and everyone's like, oh no. And they have a little fight, etc., like you do. But it turns out this gang's actually quite nice. They're looking after the old people, the people that people abandoned and all this. So they kind of give them a little pass and they're like, here, have the supplies that we've gathered and all this, and they just leave. And they're like, we're fine, Daryl. Daryl's like, yeah, we're gonna find Muriel, don't worry, we'll find him eventually. So off they went. Back to the campsite, everyone's a bit hasty, on edge and all this. Everything's quiet, but then all of a sudden, zombies! They all attack and everything goes mental, wildness, attacked, get bitten and all this. So the very next morning, they end up burying their dead and all this. They're a bit like, we need to move, we can't stay in this camp, it's not safe. Turns out one of our favourite friends, Jim, got bit. So they take Jim on a journey and off they go. In Dale's RV, good old Dale in his RV. Dale, when I first watched this back in the day, I could not stand Dale. He annoyed the shit out of me. But as time goes on, retrospective, Dale's actually not a bad character. It's a shame they had to, oh wait, season 2 stuff, we'll get to that later. But yeah, Dale, Daryl, Carol, too many names sounding alike. So off they go on a little adventure, and they leave Jim at a tree, and there he is, and he just, leave him to turn. Then we end up on TS19, the final episode of the season. We get a glorious little flashback of Shane trying to make sure Rick's okay because he's all strapped up. Can't really get him out, his best friend, so he secures the door the best he can and he runs off and he goes and finds Rick's family. So all in all, even if what you think of Shane, he was good for saving Rick's family. in retrospect. Then we flash forward to the CDC, which they're all in the middle of nowhere, like, oh, zombies and everything, but they manage to, the door opens and they get in. Then they meet Dr. Jenner, which this is also, from my understanding, not in the comic books either. So they meet him, they talk to him and all this, and they find out the test subject and all this, and they're trying to work out how they're infected and, you know, and how it all happened. Turns out that the lab's on a self-destruct mode and everything's slowly powering down. The whole building's going to burn, and a big explosion. Oh my god. Everyone panics and they manage to escape. A few of them stay left behind, and don't quote me on this, can't remember her name, but the black lady, she just decides enough's enough, I'm going to stay here and have a fiery death and explosion. The rest of them, they don't want to quit. So everyone, even T-Dog, got to mention T-Dog earlier, he's a great character. But they all escape, and lucky enough, Carol's like, hey, I was cleaning your clothes and I found this grenade. They're like, oh, sweet. So they use the grenade, blow up the glass, and they manage to run, duck behind some cover, and the whole CDC building blows up in a wild flames. After that, they just get in their vehicles and drive off. And that is the end of season 1. So all in all, like I said, 6 episodes. Didn't need any more, didn't need any less. It was perfect, just perfect. I think they've done really great. As you see, season 2 ended up getting commissioned and they ended up going for 13 episodes. I think the 13 episodes kind of hindered that show because there's a little bit of, there's a few episodes that kind of seem to drag a bit. Don't get me wrong, we're going to season 2. If you want to see me hear my reviews on season 2, then we'll go into it. But until then, this has been The Walking Dead, season 1. I will give it 10 zombies out of 10 because personally I think it was amazing. Until the next one,